sliding on the background, once you swipe from screen to screen. So, it's just one of those things that identify Windows Phone from the other platforms. So it's live, it's motionless. You just, you kind of get a sense of the app to be alive. Also, we have the content not Chrome, which is basically you want the main content that you want. You need to have it front and center and not be hidden by menus or icons or any kind of obstruction to what you really want to show the user. And of course, you also got the minimalistic side of the Windows Phone. And, you have all the tiles are just minimalistic. You have a lot of simple things that people are just gonna, once they open the app, you want them to have that. Okay, this is what it is. I get it. One of the things that I heard was that you need the user to understand your app in the first 4 seconds that he opens. So, being minimalistic in that sense is just letting people know what they can do with the app and how they can use it. So, with gradients, there are some disadvantages with gradients right now. If you try to do a background with a gradient, it's basically going to show up with what they call bands. So it's not going to be a smooth transition from, let's say, green to red. It's just going to have these kind of lines in between. So one of the things that Windows Phone is not capable of is rendering this gradient in a smooth transition. So using solid colors, blacks and whites, those types of styles is what brings your app to life on Windows Phone. So I encourage everybody, if you are going to do a gradient and you need to do a gradient, do it in a small area. You don't want to use it in a large area because, again, you get those banding effects, and it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look professional. So, solid colors all around will be the best way to go. You also want to have some compelling backgrounds. One of the first things that people will see is the background of your app. If you have something that is just very, let's say, busy, you have lots of pictures in the background, you have, a lot of textures and styles, it's gonna distract the main content to be shown. So a compelling background to me is basically something that is, you can see it in the background, but your content is front and center. And one of the examples that I have for that is our football app. So our football app on the main background is basically a football stadium on the background, but it's at the top. So at the top we're gonna have a background, we're gonna have the name of the app, but the main content, the main things that you want to get the user to see, as you can see, there's a little background texture on the back, but it's not distracting to the user. So just keep that in mind while you're doing some backgrounds. You can do solid backgrounds. For example, in our app Artistic, it's just a very simple gray background on the top with the logo and then nothing else on the bottom. So just because this app is going to have a lot of images that people are going to submit to the app, so in that sense, the images is what's going to attract people to the app and like it and review it and make money. So we also have types of text boxes, and what I mean by this is that once you go into Windows Phone and you start to type, you can type an email address or a phone number, or you need something that the user is going to type in. There are types of there are different types of text boxes, and what I'm saying that is the actual keyword that shows up. So the one way to do this in Blend that is very difficult in Visual Studio is that once you create a text box, there is something called the input scope. Here, you can see very clearly what kind of onboard keyword you're gonna have the user, basically interact with. So, default is just your regular keyword, but you also have a email username, and what that's gonna do is basically it's going to have the @ on the bottom of the keyword. It's going to have the .com at the bottom of the keyword. It's a lot easier for users to basically input whatever content you want them to input. So there's tons of those. There's dates. There's text. There are personal full names. There are telephone numbers. So you're only going to get the big number type keyword. So these are little details that not a lot of people know about. Not a lot of people actually use it. But once you're using an app, and then you don't have to go back and forth on the keyboard, even though it's a small detail, you get a lot of good impact on the user, because you're making it so seamless. You're making it so simple for the users to actually use your app, and then if they're happy with it, they're going to come back and spend a little more time, spend a little more money with your app. So that's one tip that I have, is just if you have a text box, use the input scope. And like I said, on Visual Studio, it's a little bit difficult to find. It's not as clear as Blend, but it's very easy to just click on it, and I want this to be a URL, and then that's all you have to do. Now once you open the text box, the onboard keyboard is going to be specific to that input scope. And then we also have the grids, stack panels, scroll viewers. So a lot of people, just having a grid, it basically allows you to manipulate all the content that you want and where you exactly want to put it in. So if I get a grid here, and I'll move it to the side, as you can see, it's very easy to manipulate, and it's very easy to basically tell it where you want the elements to be. So if I put a text box and I want it to be centered, and let's do 20 margins, it's very easy to basically tell the element where exactly you wanted it at. So that's one of the great things about the grid. It's just very flexible, and you can do a lot of good things. Also, the stack panel is one of my favorite types of grids. Is literally the one thing once you're building a list box or some kind of content that is repetitive. The stack panel, I think, is the way to go. You can set the orientation of the text panel to be vertical or horizontal. So anything that's inside the stack panel, you can have it display whichever way you want it to be. So if we look around here and we put a couple of buttons. So I'll just take this off. So basically, it's basically just stacking elements on top of each other. The one good thing that I recommend everybody is to, if you're using a stack panel, go ahead and make the margins of the elements. That way they're not on top of each other. So you have a little bit of a white space. So let's say if I put all of these buttons with a margin of 10 on the bottom, it just creates a little separation between them. So that way it's not so tight together. You have room to breathe. You have white space. So you just want to make sure that at least with the stack panel, you have that option of even though you cannot put the elements exactly where you want it to be, they don't have to be up against each other if you put a little bit of margins on the elements inside of it. And lastly, the scroll viewer, as the name suggests, it's basically if you have a large page, such as one of the football ones. As you can see, I have we have here a number of basically items that the user can interact with, and they're inside a scroll viewer. So basically, it's just kind of like a list box. It's just going to continue down until all the elements that you have there are done. So it just, once you use the app, it's just basically a list box of those items that you selected in. So if you have a lot of items that don't fit on the screen, use the scroll viewer. You need to have the scroll viewer outside, and then on this case, we had a stack panel with all of the with basically an individual grid to each one of those, so that way is organized. It looks great, and then people will know that, okay, I can scroll this up and down, and I'll get more options. So with Windows Phone, we have, as you know, that we have accent colors and themes. You gotta be very careful with the accent colors and everything that that Windows Phone has. So in Blend, it's very easy to actually switch back and forth. You have over the on the device tab, you have the theme, dark and light. You have the accent colors. So the one thing here that I can tell you guys is that, for example, if you want the letters to be, in this case, white, and the background is going to be black, if you really don't get the let me open this up 1 second. So if you don't set manually the color, for example, here the color is white. The one way to know that you actually set the color, manually is that once you put a text block in it, if you see on the brush foreground that little square, the default square is going to be over that kind of like that gray color. So once you put a color in it, it's going to turn as white. So that way you know that that color is set manually for that element. So if you don't change it, the users that have the light theme, it's going to get the white background and a dark or a black font. Or if the worst thing that could happen is that if you put the background black manually and you forgot to put the text box color manually, what's going to happen is you're going to have a black background with a black font, and nobody will be able to see it. So make sure if you're going with this type of colors, if you're using white fonts, make sure that you basically just move this to the white and have that white square, because that will prevent, if somebody's using a light or dark theme, to change the colors of your fonts or backgrounds or anything that you set in. So If you have basically once you get that done, you'll be set. You wouldn't be having any problems with the themes. And if you're going to use the accent color for any kind of element in your app, for example, I have here the 6 squares. Basically, what you do to get that accent color in it, if you go to color resources, you're gonna have here the first one is gonna be phone color accent. So once you click on that, whatever accent color the user is gonna have is the color that's gonna show up on that element. So if you want to play around with that, that's great. It gets a little more personal experience. You know, people that have the color will be like, oh, that's my color. That's kind of cool. So it's very easy to get. Just go to Color Resources tab and then click on that phone accent color. Okay. All right. Okay, so panorama versus pivot, and I'm hoping that
Alex,
yes.
before you start on panorama versus pivot, I had a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Great. First of all, Colt and I are flipping out over here. We are laughing at ourselves, coding in the tiny little window inside Visual Studio and manually typing in the XAML because we don't like the way the blend works because it's not reliable enough for us. And we watched you do this in 3 keystrokes, and we laughed at each other saying, oh, my Lord, why didn't we see this before? And we're like, wow, if there was like, if you ever do a class in Orlando on this, like a workshop, you know, where people can actually come and you'll help us out, we'll drive up there to see it. So anyway, the first question I had, I noticed your brother also joined. This might be for both of you. The use of blend with projects, meaning I start a Visual Studio project, and so my XAML files are inside that. However, you've got them inside here too. So does it naturally just work with your projects, or do you open projects, or how does all that work? Or do you just pick up XAML files and you don't even care that they're in projects?
So the way that we have it set up is that if you're using blend, any changes that you do, it's going to reflect back on Visual Studio automatically. So if I do a change here and change the color of that category text, once I open Visual Studio, there's going to be a little pop-up say like, hey, I noticed something different here. You want me to get the latest version? You say yes, and then Visual Studio is going to have the latest thing that you did on blend.
Gotcha. Now, when you say get the latest version, does that mean that are you working with source control, like Team Foundation server, or is it just getting off a shared drive that you have? How does that work?
So it actually works on both scenarios. We are working with source control, but also if you have the project locally, if you have both Visual Studio and Blend open at the same time, they're gonna get that difference. They're gonna be like, okay, there's something different here. Let me try it on and see what you did here.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The next question I had was, let's say that somebody had some bindings in, and they've got in their XAML some binding code. Obviously, Blend understands that that's there and won't mess with it. I'm assuming that's correct. I'm hoping, okay. And second, if you wanted to, could you add any bindings in here if you happen to know what it was? I mean, I see C# files in here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I can show you here. All right. So this is basically the sample version of the main page. So I do have here, and I'll show you how it is done, a data template.
Yeah.
So basically, a data template, you know, you set up what you want the template that you're going to use to look like. So if you see here, I just have a stack panel, and I have a text block. But under the text blocks, you have the text, and you got the binding. So you can actually set it up, you know, you can set it up here as, you know, basically you can type it, or you can go to, let me just grab, let me grab Football Pro and I'll show you. So basically on Football Pro we have the live scores list box. So in order to do a data template, you're gonna have a little icon here on the top with the element that you have selected. So if you go to live scores, you click on that, you get edit template or edit additional templates. So on edit additional templates, you're gonna have the edit generated items item template. So that one is the one that you need to have to basically have that binding. So if I edit the current one, what's going to happen is Blend is going to show me the element that is inside that list box. So if I go inside and I go to let's say away score team, you can see that the text here on the side is highlighted yellow. So if I click on binding and I click on create data binding, I can set the type of binding. So in this case we have data context, and I can set the tab, the path. So basically this is the value that you're going to put into the code that's going to show up on that text box. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Colt, who knows much more about how to use Visual Studio than I do, is grinning from ear to ear, and he said the word beautiful. So I looked at that and said, boy, do I have some more studying to do. So I get the idea. I had no idea that Blend had so many more powerful features, because that stuff just doesn't exist. We're typing all that out manually when we're trying to do it. So
that is a time killer.
Yeah. Two other questions. One of them is pretty simple. The theme that you had on a page, you changed it from light to dark. Are you simply testing the page to see what it would look like in light or dark? Or are you setting at the top of the XAML, they've got a theme preference, light or dark? Which one is that? Is it actually saving it in the XAML, or are you just testing what it looks like if the user were to change their phone setting?
Well, on default, it comes with that dark theme. You can set it up to be either one. If you want the app to have the light theme, you can set that up manually. But on the states that I was on the app that I was showing this off, this is for me just to look what it will look like and what does it look like.
So you're just testing it. Perfect.
So basically, when I finish one of the designs that I do, I go through dark and light, and I want to make sure, that way I make sure that I didn't miss any elements, any text blocks, any rectangles or anything that I did, so it doesn't change colors if I don't want them to change colors.
Got it. Got it. And if you leave it on light or dark, it doesn't really affect the app because you're just testing.
Right. Yes.
Got it. Now, one final question. One of the problems that I've had with maybe because I haven't been using Blend. When I use Visual Studio and I design a grid, I can draw the grid just fine. I can add nice little horizontal lines just fine. But when I go to add an input box or a text label and drop it into a grid area, I think I'm putting it in grid row 2, but I'm not. All I've done is set a huge margin from the top of the page. And I never get my stuff inside. So then manually I'm going in, editing my XAML, deleting the margins, and typing in the grid lines. Can you show me in here, if you created a grid and you put in like you would an HTML form with a prompt and a text box, and then another prompt and another text box, where they automatically just wind up in the grid rows without having to do a lot of that? Is that easier to do with Blend than it is to do with Visual Studio's editor?
Okay, so the way that I work, I don't set up rows or columns on the grid. I work with margins. So basically, having rows or columns, it's not the way that I work. Everything that I do is based on the top, down, left, right margin. So, for example, if I have a text block here, I'm going to have it margin 1010. I'm going to have a button at the bottom. So if I wanted to have the bottom at the very bottom, I'm just gonna have it vertical aligned to the bottom. For me right now it's way too close to the edge, so I'm just gonna put 25 margins from the bottom up. If I have a text box, just basically drag it so it looks good. Basically expand it if you want to a little bit. So that's the way that I work. So I work a lot with the margins and not with column span or row span or anything like that.
Gotcha. We had a question from the audience, and I will read it for the crowd. It said, how easy, this is from Dan, how easy is it to implement WP8 apps using the MVVM design pattern, and is it worth it? Well, I'll start with that question. We actually started on a Windows 8 app that we started using MVVM on, and it got to be more complicated for us because we were learning Windows 8 at the same time, learning .NET 4.5 at the same time, plus the MVVM patterns, and we ended up eventually making a PCL library that did a lot of the communications for us, and that ended up becoming half the MVVM, and then we used the control from component 1, and we didn't really need MVVM after that. However, I'd love to hear what people that have built bigger, more professional apps would have to say, such as you guys.
So, little disclaimer here. I said I am not the coder. MVVM is out of my league. So, but the way that my brother and I work is basically very straightforward. We create. Let me just get a cleaner example here. We just basically, I go in, I create a new element. I create a Windows Phone portrait SAML. Once I do that, that creates the C# document behind it, and that's the way that we work. We do the SAML and the C# behind it. So I am really not the one that can answer like MVVM or anything like that. I just make things look pretty.
Well, I can tell you that's a great answer. I can tell you that we haven't done that much with MVVM ourselves, but the Microsoft samples, Microsoft has a number of samples in, they call them API mashups, and your local Microsoft evangelist, for those of you that are in the air, can point those out to you. They're all on GitHub, and they have some MVVM patterns for Windows 8, not phone, but some of those have been ported to the phone, so therefore you have MVVM in the phone too. So that's it for there. I'm going to turn it back over to you because I'm dying to hear you teach me more than I already know about the panoramas and the pivots, because I'm very interested in that as well. Thank you. Back to you.
All right. So panorama versus pivot. I think we all here know what they look like. If not, there's the little panorama here at the bottom. It's just basically one large strip of images divided into little segments with a large background on the background and a large title. And the pivot is basically, think about it like a tabs on an old desktop app. It's basically just have the tab selected with the content, and then there's the next step that you can just swipe from the left or the right, doesn't matter, and then you get more content. So those are the difference between the panorama and pivot. Now, when to use the panorama and pivot is another different question. So think about it like this. A panorama is basically the cover of a magazine. If you've seen a cover of a magazine, you have a lot of different articles, a lot of different titles all around with a large background on the background image. You got the title of the magazine. So it's basically giving you an overview of what the app or the magazine is going to bring to you. So a panorama is just the main cover of the app. You want to use just enough that people will dig into the app further. You can all, think about it that this is just like, hey, have a sneak peek of, this, or click here or tap here for more information about certain content that you have. So the panorama for me is basically that main cover magazine style that just tells you, hey, look, this is what I had, but read more once you tap on it. So the pivot is basically the pages within the magazine. So if you go to any, a particular page, you're gonna get a lot more information, and that's what you're gonna get with the pivot. You're gonna get, for example, on this example, you have all the songs that you have all the playlists that you have all the albums. So it's just giving you a more detailed view of what you're trying to show or what your content is for the user to actually interact with. So those are the main differences. So usually on most of our Windows Phone apps, sorry, we have the panorama to be the main screen. So this is our football app. It has, I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 downloads, I believe. So basically, we wanted on this app to show everything that the users want to see on a football app, and we use a panorama for that. So basically, this is our magazine for them. We have live scores. Let me close this up. We have the scores panorama item. We have a quick profile with quick news, and if the users want to read more about the news, you click on it, and then you get another page with the entire article. The standings is very easy. Just a quick view of the standings. You got all the teams listed here. So if you want to know more, if you want to see the roster of like the New England Patriots or the Miami Dolphins, you click on that, and then you go into a pivot style page, and I'll show you that in a second. And we also have, on every single app that we do, we have like an information page, which is basically has the logo, has our name on it, has the title, it has a Windows Phone app with live tells if it does, and basically a couple more settings. So going back to the teams, that is basically our panorama. It just shows you, hey, this is our main cover of our football app. So I think it's time to go in a little deeper. So let's go into a little deeper. So if you click on any teams, you're gonna get into this this pivot style page. So basically, you're gonna have the tabs here on the top. So we have the next game, we have roster, we have schedule, we have sports talk, and we have latest news. So a lot more in depth of content. So you're gonna have here the latest, where they're standing against each other on the next game, who's first, who's second. You're gonna have the entire roster of the team, for example. You're gonna have the entire schedule. We have our little chat, functionality here. So it's a lot more deep content that once you see, it basically makes sense once you see the overall strategy that, okay, the main panorama was just the main content. This is the cover page, and then if you want to go deeper into the app, you can, and then with a pivot, you can show a lot more content on a very specific topic or subject here. So those are the main differences between a pivot and a panorama. Does I have any questions for those, or maybe to clarify a little bit more?
This is Frank. The only thing I had a question of, you were on the application page, and then it jumped to the pivot page. How did you do that in Blend? Were they actually two physical separate XAML pages? Or are they...
I mean, this...
Yeah, and then you did something and it jumped to the other page. Did you click the menu item? I missed how you got there.
So basically, once you open Blend, you're gonna have the different samples of the project. You listed here at the top.
Oh, you had tabs open. I see. Gotcha.
So you click it open. Mm-hmm.
What happens, for those of you that might be having the same challenge as I do, sometimes if the screen doesn't fit all the way on your monitor, if his screen's bigger than yours, you have to slide the slide bars to see what he's working on while he's doing it. So he was quick with his mouse, and I didn't slide in time, so now I get it. Perfect. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another thing that I want to show you guys is another tip that we do is if you want to navigate from page to page, you can certainly do it on code on Visual Studio, which works great. But you can also create navigation on Blend. So the way that is done is very simple. So if you click on I'm clicking on the context as grid. If you right click on it, you get that little pop-up menu, and there's a little navigate to section. So the navigate to section is you're gonna list all of the samples that you have on the project, and just basically pick the one that you want the users to navigate to. So once you do that, it's going to create a behavior or a navigation to page action. Very, very easy to do, very simple. But the other thing that you guys want to have an eye for is that if you do that, it's going to have over here where it says event name, it's going to have it as mouse left, button down. It works pretty good, but the only problem here is that if the user just basically touches it, it doesn't, you basically put your finger down on the screen, and you don't lift it up again, it's going to navigate to it. And that's the problem if you have a panorama, because people are just swiping, so they're putting their finger on their phone and swiping left and right. So if they touch that area with the mouse left button down event, it's gonna navigate them to the other page. So the way that you fix that problem is that you're gonna go to Other, and you're gonna hit the tab. So what it does is that now the gesture is to put your finger down and your finger you lift it up, and then it's going to navigate to the other page. So when they're swiping back and forth from the panorama, that way you avoid that accidental navigating to another page. So make sure that if you have behaviors on Blend navigating to another page, you use that event name tab, and then you should be all good to go. All right.
So in this case, Blend is actually writing the C# for you to navigate to the other page, the on events.
Correct. So if we go back to the code view, let me just click here, view code, view source. Open this up a little bit. You can see on the screen that you have the grid, which is the area that I've chosen, and then Blend is gonna basically write this for you. So it's gonna have an interaction trigger, the event name tab, which we changed, and the target page where you want the users to go to.
You did that right in XAML. I thought that had to call a C# function to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's why I use Blend.
I'm getting it now.
Good. So, I mean, it's very easy. Blend is just, a designer's #1 tool to use for Windows Phone and Windows 8, because, with just point and click, you move this around. Blend on the background is just writing all the samples that you need, and there's no code necessary. So it's just an awesome tool to use.
We're over here laughing at ourselves for all the work we've done in C# to try to simulate what you did in a few clicks.
Well, that's good to know then. All right, so the last thing that I have is the a little behaviors and storyboards. So behaviors, we just saw one with navigate to another page. You know, actions with no code. Just very easy, very simple. Couple of clicks, and you don't have to waste your time. Now, storyboards. I honestly, I have no idea how would you do a storyboard. Type it in. I only know how to do it with a blend and just basically moving things around. So I'm gonna do a quick storyboard so you guys can see how easy it is. So let's try this. Let's go and get a ring. So let's draw a ring. Yeah, expand it a little bit here. Okay. All right. So making that ring do something for a period of time is very easy. All you have to do is right here under the objects and timeline, it says no storyboard open. So what you do is you're going to create a new storyboard. So let's call this animation ring. So as you can see, blend has now this red border with animation ring. Timeline recorder is on. So at this point, anything that you do, every movement, every change of colors, you know, margins or anything like that, change the size of it, it's going to get recorded on that period of time. So I believe it's F11. Yeah, F11. Control F11, sorry. So if you hit Control F11, you're going to get into this animation view, what they call it. So basically it just gives you a bigger timeline here, so you can have a lot more, you know, bigger animations, more lasting or anything like that. It's just easier to use. So what I want to do is basically, I'm going to record a keyframe right now on 0 seconds, and at second number 2, I want to change that black. I want to put it all the way to close to the white, so 97.2%. So if you see now, that ring basically shrunk to a small line, and what I want to do next, I want to go into second 4 and basically go back into where I was before. So once you have that, you go ahead and you can play the animation that you did, and you can see that. So you saw how, you know, I'll do it a couple of times so you can see it. So you can see that change of colors that we did on second 2 is actually getting animated there. So that's great. I mean, it just gives you so many things that you can do with animations. You know, I can move this to here, and once I play it, it's just gonna move to that spot on the second number 4 that I selected. So it's very easy, very simple to use. And one of the things that you can do is that if you click on the actual animation ring here, you're gonna get this little common options basically. So you can have it auto reverse, which is basically what's gonna do is gonna go from beginning to end, and then from end to beginning one time. Or you can take that off and you can have a repeat behavior in blend. So you can have it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and you can do it forever. And you can actually see it, how it's going to look. So if I click forever and play the animation, I'm just going to get the animation to look over and over and over and over again. Let's see. So once you start your phone applications, you're gonna get that behavior. And one of the things that we did, and this is a Windows 8 app, but it basically has the same kind of fundamentals. We have our FilmWave app. I don't know if you can see it, but if you see on the top, you can see the swipe down or right click animations. So it just tells people that, hey, there's more content here. You can swipe down from your top of the screen and have more options. So a lot of animations that we do is to basically tell people, be like, hey, I have something here to show you. You repeat it 2 or 3 times, and then people will see that, and it's not a constant reminder that, okay, this is, where is this at, or how do I get to that? So if you have a small animation that repeats 2 or 3 times every time they open the app, it just tells the user, be like, hey, look at me over here, I get your attention, please, open me up or whatever. So it's very simple in Blend to do animations, and you can animate basically any element that you want. You can animate an arc, you can animate a grid, you can animate a text box, you can have a button basically that can bounce if you wanted to. One of the things that we can do with animations is basically if I move this button basically off screen, off the phone, so it's not visible and visible on the app, I can grab that animation, I can start it, and in second number 3, I want this button to show on the app. So I basically just drag and drop it, as easy as that, and I can see how it looks. So basically, keep in mind that on the outside you're not going to be able to see it, but you can see that the button is, basically coming off the screen into the screen on a very linear way. So the other feature that you have with storyboards is that if you click on the little they call it I forgot what they call it, a keyframe. If you click on that keyframe, you're gonna have a lot more options here, and you have what they call the easing function. So the easing function is very simple. You can play around with it. So if I want the button to basically bounce, have like a bouncing effect into it, just click bounce in and out, and once you play it, you can see that it's just bouncing. Very easy to do. Just a simple click. Nothing difficult. If you have a cubic in, you can see that it just goes slow and to a little faster animation without doing any of the, hey, at second 1 I want it to go this speed, or at second 2 I want it to go that speed. It's very easy. Easy function. You can play around with them. They have a lot of those, and it looks fun. That's all. It just looks fun. Other than that, that is basically storyboards. They're very easy to do, very simple. If you see on the back code, you can see the animation that Blend actually wrote for you. So, like I said, writing this yourself in code, I don't know how it's possible. It's so difficult to do it. So with Blend, point and click, you move it around, you do whatever you want to do, and you're good to go. So basically, that's my presentation. Follow me on Twitter. I do a lot of tweets about design and links to great design articles and things like that. So you can always email me if you have any questions about your app or anything like that. So thank you guys for joining and listening to me for an hour.
This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you. I'm sure everyone's clapping along with us as well. This has been amazing. If you've got any other suggestions on other ways to learn more about Blend, we're all for it. Like I said, if we can talk you into doing one of these for a day, we'd come up to meet you up in Orlando. I'm sure others would join. We did have a question from the crowd that said, where is the sports data source? Is it Azure or your own server? I don't know if that's...
That is a coding question.
And that will be to Lewis?
That will have to be Lewis. So,
okay.
He's the master behind the code. So.
Gotcha. Well, I can see that he's equally matched with the graphics talents, and it's obvious between the two of you why your apps have done as well as they have. My compliments to you. Congratulations, Alex, for thanking, and I can't thank you enough for such a wonderful presentation. Colt and I are just tickled pink with it.
Absolutely. Amazing.
And you may not be a developer, but you just won the Florida Dev Help Developer of the Week for this fantastic presentation.
So, sweet.
Right. Frank will be listing you in his app this week. Replacing me, by the way. Some more questions are coming in on Q&A.
Sure, we do have a couple more
By the way, everyone attending, the Q&A is at the top of your screen. And if you have any questions, please type them in. We will... Lane is congratulating you on a great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I know we have here in Orlando 2 micro stores at the mall, the Florida Mall and the Millennium Mall. And they allow us to do, workshops. So... they have a nice little setup at the back of the store that you can, there's a big screen and we can present and we can, show off and everything else. So, we can definitely do that if you guys are willing to come up.
Awesome.
We would absolutely do that, and I bet you Shane, who lives in the Orlando area, would be happy to put something together as well. And I'm sure some of the folks from Tampa may even be interested in coming over. So we will take this presentation that we've had. We'll put it up on the net for anybody that's interested. I missed the first few seconds of it, but not much. And I'll make that available to everybody. Again, thank you very much. I'll look for the Florida WinDev email, thanking you publicly there as well. This is beyond my expectations about how much I learned. It made me realize how much I don't know.
That was the goal. That was the goal.
You did amazing, astonishing. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, to everyone that attended, thank you for attending. That concludes this presentation. Again, thank you, Alex. We appreciate all your time and effort. And we look forward to seeing you. We may try to do some more of these webinars, and I really had a good time doing it, and I hope you did as well.
Absolutely.
I did. Thanks.
Thank you all. Good night.
Okay, so I think we wait for everybody to